हेलो दोस्तों, मैं हूं तन्मय भट्ट और आपका स्वागत है मेरी यूट्यूब चैनल तन्मय भट्ट में। दोस्तों, हमने सी लैंग्वेज के पार्ट 2 में देखा था कि बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर क्या होता है, यानी कि सी लैंग्वेज का बेसिक प्रोग्रामिंग स्ट्रक्चर क्या होता है। तो दोस्तों, हम इस वीडियो में बात करने वाले हैं कंपाइलर के बारे में, कंपाइलर वर्क कैसे करता है। दोस्तों, तो चलो लेट्स स्टार्ट। कंपाइलर वर्क्स, हाउ सी कंपाइलर वर्क्स। The compilation process in C transforms a human readable code into a machine readable format. For C programming language, it happens before a program starts executing to check the syntax and semitic-ation of the code. The compilation process in C involves 4 steps: pre-processing, compiling, assembling and linking. Then we run the obtained executable file to get an output on the screen. What is a compilation? Before diving into the traditional definition of compilation, let us consider an example where there is a person who speaks Hindi language and person wants to walk to person B who only knows English language. So now either of them requires a translator of translate their words to communicate with each other. This process is known as translations, or in terms of programming, it is known as compilation process. The compilation process in C is converting an understandable human code into a machine understandable code and checking the syntax and semantics of the code of determine and any syntax or error of warnings present in our C program. Suppose we want to execute our C program written in an IDE, यानी कि integrated development environment. In that case, it has to go through several phases of compilation to become an executable file that a machine can understand. Compilation process in C involves 4 steps: processing, compiling, assembling, linking. अब हम बात करते हैं प्री प्रोसेसिंग के बारे में। प्री प्रोसेसिंग इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप इन द कंपाइलेशन प्रोसेस इन C for perform using the preprocessor tool. All the statements starting with the hash symbol in a C program are processed by the preprocessor, and it converts our program file into an intermediate file with no hash statement. Under following pre-processing tasks are performed: comments removal, फर्स्ट स्टेप है कमेंट्स रिमूवल, सेकंड पॉइंट है माक्रो एक्सपेंशंस, थर्ड पॉइंट है फाइल इंक्लूज ने फोर्थ स्टेप है कंडीशनल कंपाइलेशन। तो हम उसके बारे में आज देखते हैं। कमेंट्स रिमूवल. Comments in a C program are used to give a general idea about a particular statement or part of code actually. Comments are the part of code that is removed during the compilation process by the preprocessor as they are not of particular use of the machine. The comments in the below program will be removed from the program when the preprocessing phase completes. Macros expansions, उसके बारे में बात करते हैं दोस्तों। सेकंड पॉइंट, macros are some constant values or expansion defined using the has defined directives in C language. A macro call leads to the macro expansion. The preprocessor creates an intermediate file where some pre-written assembly level instructions replace the defined expressions or content. Two different in between the original instructions and the assembly instruction resulting from the macros expansion A plus. Sign is added to every macros expanded statement. अब थर्ड पॉइंट के बारे में बात करते हैं फाइल इंक्लूजन. फाइल इंक्लूजन इन सी लैंग्वेज इज द addition or of another file containing some pre-written code into our C program during the pre-processing. It is done using the has include directive. File inclusion during pre-processing causes the entire context of file name to be added to the source code, replacing the has include file name directive, creating a new intermediate file. Example एक मैं आपको दूंगा कि if we have to use basic input or output function like printf and scanf in our C program, we have to include a predefined standard input output header file, i.e. stdio.h. कंडीशनल कंपाइलेशन के बारे में हम बात करते हैं. फोर्थ स्टेप, कंडीशनल कंपाइलेशन इज रनिंग और अवॉइडिंग अ ब्लॉक ऑफ कोड आफ्टर चेकिंग इफ macro if defined or not. The processor replaces all the conditional compilation directives with some predefined assembly code and passes a newly expanded file to the compiler. Conditional compilation can be performed using commands like has, if, has undefined, has if and defined, has if, and has else, and else if in a C program. One example, printing the edge macro if as macro is defined, else printing not defined, and ending the conditional compilation block with an has undefined directive. Explanation आपको मैं दूंगा. Has if defined directive checks if the macro edge is defined or not, and as we have commented, the has defined statement, the has if def edge block or of code will not execute and control flow will move to the has else block and not defined will be printed on the output screen. Has defined, has in and if ensure that with the conditional compilation block ends there. Now let's see the below figure that shows how a preprocessor converts our source code file into an intermediate file. An extension of I, and it is the expanded form of our C program containing all the contents of header files. Macros expansion and conditional compilation. अब हम बात करते हैं बी पॉइंट यानी कि कंपाइलिंग के बारे में. Compiling phase in C uses an inbuilt compiler software to convert the intermediate file into an assembly file, having assembly level instruction to boost the performance of the program. C compiler translate the intermediate file to make an assembly file. Assembly code is a simple English type language used to write low-level instruction. The whole program code is parsed by the compiler software in one go, and it tells us about any syntax errors or warnings present in the source code through the terminal window. An assembly is a type of low-level programming language that is intended to communicate directly with a computer's hardware. Unlike machine language, which consists of binary and hexadecimal characters, assembly languages are designed to be readable by humans. The below image is show an example of how the compiling phrase works. अब हम बात करते हैं assembling के बारे में. Assembling level is converted into a machine understandable code in binary or hexadecimal form using an assembler. Assembler is a pre-written program that translates assembly code into machine code. It takes basic instructions from an assembly code file and converts them into binary hexadecimal code specific to the machine type known as the object code. The file generated has the same name as the assembly file and is known as an object file with an extension of .object is DOS and .o in Unix OS. The below image shows an example of how the assembly phase works. An assembly file area.s in translate to an object file area.o having the same name but a different extension. हम डी पॉइंट के बारे में हम बात करते हैं यानी कि लिंकिंग के बारे में. Linking is a process of including the library files into our program. Library files are some predefined files that contain a definition of the function in the machine language, and these files have an extension of .lib. Some unknown statements are written in the object file that our operating system can't understand. You can understand this as a book having some words that you don't know, and you will use a dictionary to define the meaning of those words. Similarly, we use the library file to give meaning to some unknown statement from our object file. The linking process generates an executable file with an extension of .exe in DOS and .out in Unix OS. The below image shows an example of how the linking phase works, and we have an object file having machine level code. It is passed through the linker which links the library files with the object file to generate an executable file. तो दोस्तों, अब हम थोड़ी सी कंपाइलेशन के बारे में हम बात करते हैं कि कंपाइलेशन प्रोसेस इन C is also known as the process of converting human understandable code into a machine understandable code. Compilation process in C, 4 steps: pre-processing, compiling, assembling, and linking. The processor tool helps in comments removal, macro expansion, the file inclusion, and conditional compilation. These commands are executed in the first step of the compilation process. Compiler software helps boost the program's performance and translates the intermediate file to an assembling file. Assembler helps convert the assembly file into an object file containing machine level code. Linker is used for linking the library file with the object file. It is the final step in compilation to generate an executable file. तो दोस्तों हम आज इतना ही रखते हैं, आज के लिए इतना ही, और हम फिर मिलेंगे न्यू टॉपिक के साथ नेक्स्ट वीडियो में। तब तक के लिए गुड बाय।